The Fightin' Illini are coming to town.
That they are, Bob.
How about that? Big Ten matchup.
Catch the fever.
Brett Bielema.
Yes.
Altmaier.
Whooped his ass in a Rose Bowl, and now we're going to whoop his ass at Autzen.
Lanning whooped his ass when he was at Bama, when he played against him in Arkansas. How about that, huh? Bielema coming to town. Nothing more exciting than Brett Bielema.
Bielema's the only coach we've ever interviewed that sent us a thank you card afterwards.
I actually do genuinely think he's a good dude. I enjoy listening to his press conferences. He's such a you just think of Big Ten football when you think of Bielema. I'll never forget the shock when he left for Arkansas in the middle of the night of like, wait, what? I think he won back-to-back Big Ten championships at Wisconsin. Like, that thing was full steam ahead. And he said, peace, I'm out of here. And the dominoes that led to, him going to Arkansas, I believe led to Gary Anderson getting that job.
At Wisconsin.
And then Gary Anderson took the Oregon State job. It just ended up being a whole domino thing that affected programs all over the country.
Which led to Jonathan.
Yes, it did.
Which then led to us getting kicked out of the Pac-12. This is all Brett Bielema's fault.
I think it is. Full circle.
That's what you just told me there.
Screw Brett Bielema.
Connecting all the dots.
Damn it, Brett.
It's It's a much better game than obviously what we had last week, where some Duck fans told themselves, "Oh, got to be alert for Purdue." Like, no, you don't.
You
Purdue
never know.
sucks. I've seen them play.
No, it was just all about how the Ducks handled themselves after the win on a short week on the road.
What I think it really was, though, it was the Illinois game with Purdue. And I said this on the show. Illinois clearly got up by 20, and they had a look-ahead spot of, like, we got Michigan next week. We want to win that game.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, Purdue's on fire. Oh, my God, we're not in rhythm. Here we go. Wild game. We won by 1. Illinois, I think, is going to come in, and they want to play smash mouth football. We'll hear from Dan Lanning coming up. I saw a little interesting note. Oregon, according to 24/7, is the leader right now in recruiting for Blue Bloods.
For their 2025 recruiting class, yeah.
Yeah.
A higher percentage of recruits are Blue Bloods at Oregon than any other program.
88%. Yeah. And we've talked about what this series, or what the season has meant. Dan Lanning talked about this a little bit yesterday with Isaac and Suk of responding, rebounding, gathering yourself. Like, he was asked, can you name a couple players that have improved? And he said, I could, but I won't, right? But he did kind of say, like, the team. Just the team in general, he seems very happy with the way that they've come together post the Idaho-Boise State start to their season. And I just keep thinking about, we talked about Dylan Gabriel and what he has meant for them. What this season just kind of means for Dan Lanning and Oregon as a program looking to take that step. Every year that they've recruited well, even with Mario, it was always like, yeah, it's really good. And then you look at the 5-star column, 1.
Yeah.
And now this is if you can achieve certain things season, and look at the recruiting show now, this is one of those, like, does this finally take you to a level that you're always in, that largely like 4 schools have ever been in?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're clearly heading in that direction. No matter how this season ends, I don't think you need to win a national championship this year in order for that to happen. I think having the number of recruits they did on campus for the Ohio State game was massive. That was one of the biggest wins in program history, one of the biggest home wins in the history of the program, and so to have guys there to witness it is only going to pay dividends for you for years to come. They got a lot of big-name kids coming in town this weekend. That seeing that stat, there's little things like that will pop up from time to time that just blow my mind. And I'm as optimistic and homer as you could possibly be. And I see that, and I'm just like, God, that they have the 7th-ranked recruiting class in the country, and you're like, okay, they've been higher in other years. The reason they're 7th is because they have a lower commit total. They only have like 13 commits. Some of the other schools ahead of them, I think, have 20 or 21.
And USC is behind you, and they have like 4 or 5 more.
More commits, and they're ranked behind you. And it's because it's just the quality of the kids. And when you look at the rest of the guys that Oregon is going after, they're trying to flip an offensive lineman from Central Catholic who is currently committed to Washington. I think he's a 3-star commit. Every other kid that they're in the mix for, You're talking 4 or 5-star guys, some of the highest-ranked commits in the country, or recruits, I should say, in the country. And so I think you're clearly heading in that direction. And this has always been the thing about Lanning, like even with those painful losses last year that I remember arguing in the aftermath of the Washington game of college football's unique. Like you're zeroed in on the week-to-week and how the team's playing right now, while also I think having an eye towards where's the overall health of the program, where's the direction, like there's a massive difference between having a good season and having a good program. Teams can have a good season. Florida State had a great season last year. How's the overall health of their program? Indiana is having an awesome season right now. Their recruiting class is like 74th in the country. So you hit the lottery in the portal for 1 year. Are you going to be able to do it again next year? Is the recruiting going to catch up? Like, it's one thing to have a good year. It's another to have an overall healthy program. There's no doubt that Oregon's been building towards that, even with the tough, painful losses last season. And now you get back-to-back opportunities. Like, a lot of jokes were made early in the season, and rightfully so, about where Oregon was playing on the Big Ten Network, and people on Comcast couldn't watch them. Week 2 was a game on Peacock. It was a horrible broadcast, and not that many people watched it. Now you're going off of a couple of weeks ago having a primetime NBC game, a Friday night game that was on Fox that got over 2 million viewers. This week, your primetime window CBS. Next week, your primetime window CBS. This is a run on national television that absolutely helps your recruiting as well.
Yeah, side note here, because I want to get to Lanning audio coming up next on the actual game itself. I don't know why I was surprised. I was surprised. I saw one of those ratings things tweeted out from last week's games. The CW being more accessible than the Big Ten Network doesn't surprise me. The CW beating ESPN2, that's happened quite a few times.
Multiple times this year.
And I'm a little surprised by that because I think people are so conditioned to ESPN.
I think a lot of it's matchups, dude. Like, fans are smart. We don't want to watch bad games or bad teams. Say what you want about Oregon State and where they're at right now. You know who's interesting? UNLV.
Yeah.
Are they going to make the playoff? They're on the road. That was a game that they could have lost. That's an attractive game for fans to watch. No different than the game tonight. So I think of fans around the country, it's not about what market you're in or how big. This is why the whole thing is what happens to Oregon State and Washington State is dumb. If you're interesting and you're playing good football, you will get eyeballs and people will watch, especially if you're on a channel that is easily accessible across the entire country. And it's an awesome note for Beaver fans that they've had multiple games this year that have beaten Big 12 or ACC games that are on at the same time on bigger networks.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what the game was that I saw yesterday that surprised me. It may have been Baylor, Texas Tech.
They've had a few of those.
ESPN2 at Baylor, Texas Tech, and Baylor's not good. Texas Tech is having a good season for what we thought they would be.
But that's my whole point,
But Oregon
though.
State outdrew them by almost 200. I just like that. That's a small non-Oregon note that just kind of surprised me. And I know the CW, we talked about that at the beginning of the year, but it just surprised me a little bit.
It doesn't surprise me because if I know we're in the bubble and we have Oregon State fans that obviously listen to the show and you went to Oregon State, and so I get that. If you take your fandom out of it, going into the weekend last weekend, what game are you more excited to watch?
I want to see. Well, if I'm not an Oregon State fan, I want to see what UNLV looks like.
It's not even close for me.
They're the group of 5 team that's
not even close for me, and that's why that game beat it in eyeballs and numbers.
Lanning said this yesterday about cooking. He cooked for his family.
He did. He had a Thursday family dinner. I was surprised.
Yeah, I like when coaches have normalcy. I read a book, and Tony Dungy believed in this, in getting early, and then families come in and having breakfast with the coaching staff, and then the kids go to school, and then they get done in time to go home for dinner. Whereas, like, I remember Mario coaching at Oregon. I don't know if he left the building at all.
I remember asking Mario years ago in an interview, they had a bye week or a Friday night game, and I said, hey, are you going to sit around and watch football on Saturday? That's kind of cool. You guys get a weekend off. You don't usually get a weekend off. And he laughed and said, are you serious?
Yeah.
We don't have time to watch football, brother. And they asked this of Lanning yesterday, and he was like, yeah, dude, I cracked open a Corona. I sat on my couch and watched football. It was great.
I just think work-life balance is important for everybody, and some of these coaches think they have to work 18 hours a day. I don't think it achieves as much as they think. Anyway, Lanning made chili, and I think Lanning became the everyman of how he makes his chili.
Don't look up the ingredients. Just pour until it feels right.
And I cook this way almost all the time.
97% of the meals I cook, that's how I cook.
Tablespoons, teaspoons, cups, half cups, a third cup. Nope.
Yeah.
We're kind of eyeballing that.
Once in a blue moon, the wife and I will scroll through like a new cookbook and be like, that looks good. Let's try that. And that's one, if I've never cooked it before, okay, how much do I need?
Desserts, I'll do this.
I'll follow the ingredients. But
yeah.
everything else that I cook, it's just like, let's throw that in there. See how it tastes.
Well, I'll start with a recipe because you like to know the ratios.
But you're a chili guy. You know how to make a chili. You've won.
Yes.
What percentage of your chilies that you make are freeballing it and following a strict recipe?
You have to know your recipe.
Because I know you do some that
Yes.
are probably free ball. You got to have a few that are free ball every now and then.
Oh, well, I established kind of the baseline. It's like, all right, how much do you want to make? So what is the spice to liquid to meat to vegetable ratio? So you get it. But then, yeah, once you kind of know it, then yeah, I feel like a little more garlic this
A little
time.
flair of this.
I finished with the wine. I'm just pouring the wine till it looks like there's enough liquid in there.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You're
what
not
I
tracking.
do.
So
Is
you-
it 1 cup? Is
So
it
you have
know.
you have a basic outline, so it acquires the flavor you want it to have.
If I'm making baked good desserts, I'll follow the recipe pretty
Well,
closely.
baking you have to because that's science, and if you don't get the right leavening agent or everything like that, then you don't get what you're expecting.
However, you're right, but like where I kind of go a little off the script is vanilla extract, and like I'll put a little brown sugar in some, just make it a little sweeter, a little
Yeah.
more vanilla.
A little hint of something.
I go a little above and beyond in that regard. Yeah,
That sounds tasty.
this is the only way to make chili. You
This
just
is-
eyeball it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever followed a recipe. Now, I'm not a chili cook-off champion like Jason Swigert.
I can make a
so
good chili.
I feel
can-
like
yeah.
chili, like Suk talked about this yesterday after they did the interview. It was like, there's a very high floor for chili.
It's like pizza. It's
It's
hard
very-
to have bad chili.
You throw some tomatoes, you got some beans, you got some corn, you got like, it's just,
Sure.
a little spice. Like
There's levels to it.
there's levels to it. You can do a much better chili, but the floor, you can just throw something together and it's not going to be terrible.
My brother-in-law made chili for his daughter the other day, just like randomly, unprompted, just did it. And I went over there to say happy
Yeah.
birthday to her, and I put it in the bowl, and he's like, I just made it. And I'm like, it's amazing to me.
There you go.
Tastes
Little
great.
cheese, a little
Usually the
mustard.
biggest
Great.
variable is how much heat I decide to give any particular batch.
Yeah,
If there's
depending on
kids,
who
you
you're
can't-
cooking for,
Yeah.
yeah. You got
Yes.
parents that don't like heat, kids that
Yeah,
don't like heat.
right.
You got to tone it down a little bit.
I did get judged because I put mustard in my chili, and that was weird to everybody.
That's weird to me.
Unusual,
Really?
A little weird.
but
I've never done it.
not unheard of.
Do you put it on a chili dog?
I don't eat chili dogs very often. I know, shockingly, I don't. It's not a staple
So,
in my
yeah.
You
diet.
look like you.
No, the big,
I do.
The big
I-
one I
I
get
used to
is
like chili
I put
dogs.
cinnamon in my chili. It's very noticeable.
Cinnamon.
I don't make as much chili anymore. I got stomach problems, and chili tends to flare things up. So I'm kind of out on chili.
I feel
It
like you
can
have
be an
IBS.
irritant.
I definitely do have IBS.
I feel like you have
yeah.
like undiagnosed.
The last time I thought I
IBS.
had a kidney stone, you know what I had Wednesday night of that week?
I don't want to know.
A batch of chili.
Was it really?
It was.
Wow.
And I thought I had a kidney stone. I was
I'm
in so much
enjoying
stomach
leftover
pain.
chili tonight for the baseball
Look
game.
at that.
Beans, the magical fruit.
That's right.